With a background in the hotel and automotive industries as well as investments and economic development, I'm now joined by Franklin McLarty. He is the president and CEO of RLJ McLarty Landers Automotive Group. Thank you for being with us.
Roby, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here on Talk Business.
And you are also a principal in a new real estate fund, which is the primary reason why I've got you here, although I'm going to pick your brain on a lot of other things. Let's talk about Cap Rock Core Real Estate Fund. This is a new $50 million investment that you guys announced just this past week. You're going to be acquiring assets throughout the Midwest and the Southeast regions in real estate as an investment fund. Tell me what the vision for this project is.
Well, Roby, we really felt, and we being Kevin Hutchinson, myself, DeWitt Smith, and Ted Dickey, who are my colleagues in this venture, so very much a home state Arkansas group. We felt that the secondary markets in the heartland of the United States had really been overlooked and underserved in the real estate investment world over the last 5 years or so as we began to slowly come back from the crisis, and think there's a real opportunity there to buy assets at attractive prices and get into cash flow assets that provide some good yield in a very yield-starved environment given the current Treasury yields.
Give me an example. You've got 2 properties under your belt already just with this initial investment that you've got here. Tell me a little bit about what you've already invested in, maybe what you have your eye on.
Sure. If you look at Northwest Arkansas, let's look at that portfolio. You obviously have a very strong economy in Northwest Arkansas with the world headquarters of Walmart, Tyson Foods, J.B. Hunt, and the University of Arkansas, 4 spectacular economic anchors. And we understand that economy very well from a grassroots perspective, the principles of the fund. And so we were able to find a group of assets there that are essentially 80% plus leased, good CPI escalators on the rents. So as inflation comes back, we're hedged against that. We're able to get it at an attractive price point and get very attractive debt with historically low interest rates. So that's a perfect example of the kind of economy and the kind of asset that we're looking for.
Why do those assets exist out there? Why is this economic opportunity a bird's nest on the ground for you guys?
Well, I think the first thing is our respective expertise. We have a lot of experience in markets like Northwest Arkansas, Charleston, South Carolina, Nashville, Kansas City, etc. So our ability to find the right assets, underwrite those assets correctly, and over time exit those assets. You need to really understand the real estate communities in those markets, have credibility with the brokerage community and the proprietary owners. Secondly, you need to be able to understand who your tenants are and underwrite their creditworthiness. Pretty easy to do if it's Walmart, S&P rated debt, right? But if it's a mid-sized private company, you really need to understand how that company performs, who the management is, et cetera, and that takes some local grassroots underwriting knowledge, and we believe we have that. The other piece is Ben Bernanke. He's keeping interest rates very, very low. So to the extent that you can find assets that have good, solid tenants, have leases in place that have CPI escalators, and then you can lock in your debt at these historically low interest rates, it's a very good yield play and basically taking the other side of the Ben Bernanke trade.
Walk me through a little bit of how you guys came to this realization. I mean, you're sitting around having coffee somewhere. I mean, what was the impetus for let's do this thing?
Well, it's a great question, and I think Kevin Hutchinson and I have known each other for many years. Really grew up around Kevin as he was a tennis player with my brother. But we've done some real estate deals together. Kevin, of course, is the CEO of Colliers, Arkansas, which is far and away the largest real estate firm in the state with over 100 professionals. DeWitt Smith actually grew up playing basketball with my father, and so I've known DeWitt for many years and have invested in a couple of his real estate projects, including Village on the Creeks in Northwest Arkansas, just down from one of our family Nissan dealerships there. And Ted Dickey has worked with the Colliers organization for some time and had a long-standing friendship and relationship with him. So very organic in terms of how we've all known each other. DeWitt's role at Cooper Communities certainly gives him singular real estate standing in Arkansas's real estate world history. Kevin's similar with Colliers. We had done some co-investment with Kevin on some of the real estate associated with some of our auto dealerships. As I noted, had done the Village on the Creeks investment with DeWitt. We all saw the same opportunity, and that's really how we came together and formed this.
Let's talk a little more big picture here. And you mentioned Ben Bernanke, but let's talk about the general economy. One of the things that I hear from business leaders, and I read more globally, is that there is uncertainty out there in the world right now. You seem to be making a decision that's based on quite a bit of certainty. So do you see business conditions out there right now as uncertain?
To some degree, yes. What I would say to you is what I feel pretty certain about is that real assets, true brick and mortar real estate, that is 75 to 80% leased in good, solid markets that have some depth and diversity to their economy, are going to hold up quite well. And when inflation rears its head, which it eventually will, I have no crystal ball, but it'll eventually happen. When that happens, we feel like we can be quite insulated from that by having those CPI escalators I referred to. And so we feel like we're in a good position to take a conservative approach in this uncertain time and be able to provide yield to our investors and ourselves. So we feel good about where we are.
I can't have you on this program without asking you some questions about another hat that you have worn in the recent past. You're a former chairman of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, which is charged with helping bring economic development projects to the state of Arkansas. We have just learned on Friday afternoon that there's going to be a major economic development announcement on Tuesday of this next week. And from hints that the governor's dropped and Grant Tennille has dropped, it is supposedly a potential super project. So I'm not going to ask you to reveal any secrets if you even know any secrets, but tell me how that process works of recruiting a business. You were involved with the HP decision to come to Arkansas. How does that work when, maybe not necessarily every step in the process, but from start to finish, how does it work?
Well, Roby, first and foremost, it was really an honor to serve on the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. My grandmother Helen was the first woman to ever serve under then Governor Pryor, so to be able to kind of take that legacy was particularly special on a personal level. I came on about the same time Maria Haley came on. She had previously worked with my father in Washington. And it was just very exciting work to be able to do good for the state, but also learn a lot about the state. Our meetings moved around the state, and so you really got to see areas of our home state that I maybe wasn't as familiar with as some of the areas that are near and dear to my roots, like Hope and Little Rock. Really, the way that the commission works is to help facilitate, encourage, interact with potential suitors and interested parties, but the process is usually initiated, not always, but usually initiated by a third-party consultant that a large company has retained. So they stand between entities like AEDC and the actual client. So you don't know who it is. You'll be sent a request for proposal from a third-party consultant. They'll use code names. And so, sometimes when I think the AEDC staff may be saddled with not being so transparent, it's not their doing. It's in fact, there's some secrecy there. Because companies are very protective of their corporate plans. So you do your best to respond to those RFPs. I would say the central theme that is absolutely fundamental to every RFP is workforce. Governor Beebe talks about education and economic development, being two sides of the same coin. That's very true. And so they're always going to look at the workforce, both real time and looking out 10, 15, 20 years.
And if you make it past that first cut of workforce, then it becomes infrastructure, other amenities, obviously economic development incentives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where you really, when you get into that next round where it's 3 or 4 states, maybe 5 at the most, and you've really got to be strategic about your benefits, your assets, and minimizing your liabilities. And that's when the process really gets competitive, and we've got to put our best foot forward to grab those good companies.
30 seconds to wrap up here. If this is a super project, as has been hinted at, this will be the state's first super project. Pretty exciting?
Very exciting, and hopefully the first of many. And I commend Governor Beebe, Grant, and the whole team there on all the hard work they've done on this project and other recent wins.